Today we're taking a look at Battlefield 2042 Zero Hour. This is Season 1 for the game. This is the first new content since release, which was in November of last year. This is all gameplay that I played and recorded yesterday in a capture session. And I only played for about an hour and 45 minutes in total, so I don't have a great deal of experience with this, but I did get to record all the new stuff, so we're going to take a look at everything now. Just a bit of an overview for you if you want to get the details. So we've got the new map exposure. We've got a new specialist called Liz, who's got a remote control rocket launcher. We've got two new stealth helicopters, the Huron and the Hannibal. Two new weapons, the Ghostmaker crossbow and the BSVM marksman rifle. A new gadget in the smoke grenade launcher. And there's also a battle pass, a free tier and a premium tier with stuff to unlock. There's 100 levels in total. All of the gameplay stuff can be unlocked without paying any money though. So I've broken this up into sections here and what I think you'd be most interested in. The first is the new marksman rifle, the BSVM. It's kind of similar to the VSS. You guys remember the VSS Ventores from Bad Company 2. Looks very similar to that, and you can actually set this up in a few different ways. So I was using it as kind of a DMR style rifle here, picking people off from distance with a bigger scope on it, or you can make it more medium range with a different magazine and an underbarrel. And then you can go super fast rate of fire with the short barrel and the higher rate of fire magazines and turn it into more of a close range assault rifle SMG build. It's actually really good, this. Very effective. I think people are going to start using this a lot. It feels like it's a decent versatile weapon for the game. Next up is the Ghostmaker R10 crossbow. Now, when I first heard about this, I was thinking, crossbows usually in PvP games not that great, but this one's actually viable and quite fun to use. You've got three different bolt choices. I was mainly using the explosive bolt, and if you tagged an infantry player with that, a second later they explode, so it's kind of like a one-hit kill. So there's some fun moments to have with that. The other two bolts, I think I only used one of the other ones, but it has like a really fast bolt, making one-hit kill headshots with it pretty easy. Almost goes in a straight line, even at distances that you wouldn't expect, so actually effective. Yeah, you've got to hit your shots. You've got a bit of a longer reload time than if you were using an assault rifle, so there's the drawback. Had a lot of fun with this in the close range infantry areas. It was a good laugh. Next up, the two new helicopters. So as far as I'm aware, these are identical in terms of the unlocks and how they function, but of course they physically look different. You've got one on the US side, one on the Russian side. I found these pretty decent, and I think that's because it feels like a bit of thought and time went into them. They've got two different modes. They've got the attack mode and the stealth mode, and they both offer different types of gameplay. In the stealth mode, you can't be locked on and you're not detected on the radar as far as I'm aware, and you can also drop bombs when you're in the stealth mode. In the attack mode, you've got a couple of options for the weapons. I had it set up here with a cannon, and then my secondary was a guided missile, kind of like the SWOR from the previous Battlefield games. You fire it and then you move the mouse and the helicopter to aim it where you want it to go. Nice and maneuverable as well. These helicopters actually felt like decent attack helicopters, because the attack helis in the game at the moment, or the ones that came out at launch, they're not really that good, but I can see these becoming a big threat in the game. The gunner as well gets this really cool suppressed heavy machine gun, but you've got to be accurate with it. And most of the time you're going to spend in the air dodging the missiles from Liz, which we'll take a look at now. So Liz is the new specialist. As for the story of this character, I don't really care, to be honest, but their passive is that they can spot or see nearby enemy vehicles that are damaged. You get the red outline thing, and their gadget is the G84 rocket launcher, missile launcher. So you have to right click, you have to aim to fire this. You get two. They recharge over time though, and once you shoot, you have a limited amount of fuel, so you can't just fly this around forever, and you just control it with your mouse or your analog stick. You can fly it into enemy soldiers, you can fly it into vehicles, ground vehicles, helicopters. It's not quite UCAV 2.0 like a lot of people thought it might be. If you want to one-hit kill someone with this on full health, you have to get a direct hit with it, and from what I experienced yesterday from my testing with it, the splash damage isn't very big, so you might hit near someone and just get a hit marker, but if you want to kill them, you'll have to follow that up with a second rocket. But of course, if you go after weakened players, you could get double kills, maybe triple kills with this thing. It's quite controllable too, so you can whip it around a lot, and it travels fast. You can't pick the recoilless rocket launcher though if you're playing as Liz, so you can't run around with two rocket launchers. I think that might be a bit too overpowered against vehicles, so just make a note of that. In terms of vehicle damage, there were a couple of times when I hit a Latvi Recon, that's the Jeep style vehicle, or the hovercraft, and it seems like it's a two-hit kill on those. On the bigger helicopters, you'll be looking at maybe 2 to 3 rockets. The vehicle that's going to suffer the most from this though is tanks, because there's not really any protection against this. There's no APS or anything like that, so tanks are going to get absolutely smashed after this goes into the game, especially in the first couple of weeks when a lot of people are playing as Liz and using this. Although, saying that, when these things are flying towards you, they are very visible. There's a bright light, and I tested, you can actually shoot the rockets down and explode them, and you get a few points for it too. So conscientious players who are looking out for that, you may be able to counter them, whether you're on foot or in a tank or even in a helicopter, as you can see here, simply by shooting the rockets and exploding them before they get to you. And I was in one of the new stealth helicopters here, and when the rockets are flying towards you, you can actually see them on the heads-up display. They've got like a red thing that highlights them. I don't know if it's like that for tanks, but that could be useful if it is. But I was having a good time here just trying to dodge all of these red missiles flying towards me. That was a bit of a laugh. They are noisy as well, so you can hear them coming. It's going to be interesting to see how they play out in the meta of the game, though. They may get annoying for infantry on certain maps because there's a lot of open space still on these maps. But we'll have to wait and see. New gadget, smoke grenade launcher. But here's a quick look at it. You fire it and it just splits into 3 smoke grenades. It might be a really useful gadget for medics, though. People who like to play Falc or Angel. I personally would never pick it over some of the other gadget options, though. The map exposure, very vertical, as you can see. You've got points at the top, points at the bottom, and then points actually built into the mountain through the tunnel system and the James Bond style villains layers. That's where most of the infantry fighting is going to happen. You can get helicopters in the tunnels too. Also, I found this at the deployment. This is actually a big cargo lift or a vehicle lift. So what I did was called in a tank, drove it into the lift, and then it shuts by itself and takes it up to the top. So if you want to quickly get a ground vehicle either to the top or the bottom, that's an interesting way of doing it. And it'll be a damn sight easier than trying to get the tank up the rockfall avalanche, which would just be a pain in the butt. I found this melee weapon as well, this stick with the skull on the top. Could you already get this, or is this some kind of Easter egg? I don't know, it's weird. In terms of the battle pass itself, I don't really care much for it, to be honest. There was a couple of cool things in there, like the gnome charm. That's an old Battlefield Easter egg. A couple of interesting skins too, like we've got knockoff Ghost here from Modern Warfare. That's a McKay skin, I think. But there's also a lot of filler in there, like player cards and weapon skins that just aren't that appealing to me. DICE did briefly mention Portal 2, which I was a bit surprised about. They're going to add more control over player and vehicle spawns, and they're also increasing the vehicle budget for vehicles, which I guess means that you could just make more interesting vehicle modes if you could add more of them. And there's some kind of new vehicle superiority mode coming soon. So that's the big hits of season 1 right there. All the new flashy stuff, I suppose, to give you guys an idea of what's in it. They're also adding in the reworked version of Kaleidoscope in August, new third-person animations, new vehicles and voice lines for specialists, performance improvements, weapon balance, and changes to visual recall. As for the season itself, they said it will last for 12 weeks, so season 2 rough start date of September the 1st. In terms of season 1 as a whole, the whole package feels underwhelming for me personally, and I think that most players will find it very light on new content. DICE have had to spend the last 6 months bug fixing the game to how it should have released, and I presume that because of that they've had to pull more developers off new content to work on the base game instead. And I appreciate that this content is free, but the main problem for me with the first season is that as a Battlefield fan, the most exciting things that will keep me playing and get me invested in the game are maps and guns, gadgets, vehicles to play with. Battlefield is a sandbox, and the more locations and toys in there, the better. So the fact that there's only 1 new map, 1 new gun, 2 if you count the crossbow, 1 new specialist and 1 new vehicle class is a disappointment. Regular players are going to blow through this new content very quickly. Hopefully this doesn't set a precedent for the future seasons going forward, and I'd prefer if DICE focused on making more new maps, perhaps smaller in scale, maybe 2 at the start of the season and then 1 more mid-season, and then a lot more new guns and gadgets offering new gameplay opportunities, and of course more new fun vehicles thrown into the mix. And that's all for today, folks. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Leave a like or a dislike, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.